For nearly a century, David Attenborough has been the voice that guided us through the wild, the whisper in the jungles, the calm in the deserts, the heartbeat of the oceans. But now, heartbreaking news about the legendary natural historian is shaking the world. As he approaches 100 years old, Attenborough is finally breaking his silence about his health, his private fears, and the emotional truth he kept hidden for decades. Behind the awards and breathtaking documentaries lies a man who battled loneliness, near-death moments, and unimaginable pressure. And today, he's sharing one final wish, a wish he hopes humanity will honor before he leaves this earth forever. David Attenborough was born on May 8, 1926, in Isleworth, London, into a home overflowing with books, debate, and compassion. His father, Frederick Attenborough, served as principal of University College, Leicester, turning their household into a sanctuary of ideas. During the chaos of World War II, the Attenborough home opened its doors to refugee children escaping violence across Europe. These early experiences shaped David's belief that the world should be protected, not exploited. As a young man, he pursued natural sciences at Clare College, Cambridge, specializing in geology and zoology. After graduation, he briefly worked in educational publishing, but in 1952, fate nudged him into the BBC, where he initially sought a behind-the-scenes role. He never intended to become the face of nature, yet the moment producers noticed his intelligence, composure, and clarity, everything changed. His first major breakthrough came in 1954 with the show Zoo Quest. It revolutionized television. For the first time, viewers saw wild animals in their true habitats, guided by a presenter whose calm excitement felt like a friend taking them on an adventure. Zoo Quest didn't just launch Attenborough's career, it launched a new era of wildlife filmmaking. To the world, David Attenborough seemed untouchable, a gentle adventurer who walked through dangerous terrain with ease. But behind the camera, he silently carried physical and emotional burdens that accumulated over decades. For more than 70 years, he traveled to the harshest environments on the planet: blistering deserts, freezing tundras, storm-tossed oceans, thick jungles filled with unseen dangers. His body absorbed the cost. By the early 2010s, the strain on his joints became unbearable. In 2015, he underwent a major knee replacement surgery, proof that a lifetime spent climbing cliffs and crouching in forests had left its mark. But his physical pain wasn't his greatest fear. As he aged, Attenborough started noticing memory lapses, small details slipping away, names disappearing for seconds, harmless for most people but terrifying for a man whose life depended on clarity and precision. He worried that his aging mind might one day betray the message he spent his entire life trying to deliver. And then there was the incident that nearly ended his life long before he became a legend. In 1957, while filming near the Great Barrier Reef, he tested an early diving helmet designed by Jacques Cousteau. It malfunctioned. Water slowly filled inside, rising from his chin to his nose. He couldn't speak. He couldn't breathe. With seconds to spare, he managed to break the surface. He later admitted that the moment haunted him for decades, a reminder that filming the natural world always demanded more than curiosity. It demanded courage. Behind the explorer the world adored was a man deeply anchored by love. In 1950, Attenborough married Jane Elizabeth Ebsworth Ariel, a woman who chose a quiet life far from the cameras. They married in St. Anne's Church on Kew Green, beginning a partnership that would last nearly 5 decades. She raised their 2 children, Robert, who became a lecturer in biological anthropology, and Susan, who became a respected headmistress. While Attenborough traveled the world, Jane built stability at home. She protected the children from fame, maintained normalcy, and became the emotional center of the family. Their marriage was not glamorous, it was steady, loyal, and unshakably warm. But in 1997, tragedy struck. Jane suffered a sudden brain hemorrhage. Attenborough rushed home, but the event unfolded too quickly. She was gone. He later said her death left him lost. For a man whose voice guided millions, grief took away his own inner compass. The home he returned to after every expedition was forever changed. And yet he continued working, not because he was ready, but because nature had always been his refuge, the place he went to heal. Those close to him said Jane's death quietly deepened his documentaries. His tone grew more urgent, his messages more emotional. Behind the narration was a man speaking not only for nature, but for loss. As the world began confronting climate change, David Attenborough became more than a filmmaker, he became a global advocate. His documentaries stopped being simple explorations. They became warnings. He spoke at the United Nations, urging leaders to act before ecosystems collapsed. In 2021, he was named the official People's Advocate for COP26, one of the most important climate conferences in history. His message was simple and unforgettable. This is not about politics. This is survival. Yet with global influence came controversy. Reports surfaced that the BBC withheld an episode of Wild Isles because it dealt directly with human environmental destruction. Climate denial groups targeted him online, accusing him of exaggeration even though scientific evidence supported him fully. His comments about rising population pressure also triggered intense debate for decades. David Attenborough has stood above arguments, politics, and personal attacks. When critics tried to twist his message, he simply refused to step into the noise. He didn't defend himself. He didn't debate. His loyalty was never to opinions, it was to the truth he witnessed with his own eyes. He had seen coral reefs turn ghost white. He had watched ancient forests shrink year after year. He had filmed species vanish from existence. These were not theories. These were realities carved into the timeline of his life. And because of that, Attenborough knew he could no longer afford the luxury of distraction. He had time only for honesty, for urgency, for the mission he had carried since he was a young explorer, to warn the world before it is too late. But even legends are mortal. In 2013, at 87 years old, Attenborough received a pacemaker to stabilize his heart. It was a quiet procedure, no dramatic announcements, no spotlight, but for those close to him, it was a sobering reminder. The man whose voice had narrated the life of the planet was beginning to confront the fragility of his own. As he moved deeper into his 90s, age began to show itself in ways he could no longer ignore. His breath grew shorter. His once smooth narration developed a slight tremor. Recording sessions that once took an hour now required entire days, punctuated by breaks and careful pacing. Memory lapses appeared, little moments where a name, a location, or a scientific term slipped away for a heartbeat too long. But none of this stopped him. He kept traveling. He kept filming. He kept fighting. Every time he stepped in front of a camera, he knew the window of time he had left was narrowing. Every documentary in his 90s felt like a race not for fame, but for impact, a race to distill a century of wisdom into a final, unmistakable message. Then came the moment that brought the world to silence. As he reached 98 and 99 years old while promoting his 2025 documentary Ocean, Attenborough began to speak openly about something he had avoided for nearly all of his extraordinary career: his own mortality. He confessed that he knew he was entering the final chapter of his life. The unstoppable explorer was finally acknowledging that even he could not outrun time. And with that honesty came another truth: loneliness. His children, now grown, had their own lives and families. His home, once filled with conversation, laughter, and the comforting presence of his beloved wife Jane, had become quieter than ever. Her absence lingered like a soft shadow in every room, a reminder of a love that shaped him but could not follow him into old age. Yet even as he faced the end, Attenborough refused to turn inward. Instead, he turned outward to the oceans he loved, to the forests he had spent a lifetime defending, and to the young people who would inherit everything he would one day leave behind. His voice, trembling not from fear but from age, carried one of the most powerful statements he had ever spoken. When I first saw the sea as a child, we believed it was something to conquer. Now, at the end of my life, I know the truth. If we save the sea, we save the world. This wasn't science. It wasn't narration. It was a farewell. After a lifetime spent fighting for the planet, David Attenborough offered humanity one final request: gentle, urgent, and heartbreaking. Do not give up on the planet. Not for me, for yourselves. He knows he does not have long left. His body is slowing. His voice is fading. But his hope remains alive. He wants the next generation to protect what remains: forests, oceans, wildlife, the fragile beauty of the world he dedicated his life to showing us. His greatest fear is not death. His greatest fear is indifference. David Attenborough didn't just film nature, he transformed the way we see our planet. His voice may one day fade, but his message cannot. If you believe in his mission, let your voice be heard. Like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to keep his legacy alive. Together, we can protect the world he devoted his life to. Thanks for watching.